What's up guys, today I want to be teaching you guys how you can make your first ever short documentary. So back in May of 2022, I made my first ever documentary, and this was one of the greatest adventures of filmmaking I've ever had. I literally learned so much about documentary filmmaking, and I think I was able to tell a very powerful story with my film. Documentary filmmaking is a very great way to explore different filmmaking techniques without spending crazy amounts of budget on your film. And I think documentaries can allow you to explore an area you've never really explored into. Alright, with all films, you gotta start with an idea. For me, it took me a few different tries until I landed on the final idea. So the first idea I had, I wanted to make a documentary about happiness, and it didn't take long for me to realize that that's kind of hard because of how broad and abstract this is. So I wanted to make something more personal about a single person or a single place. And I came across a friend, and this was idea number 2, which was a guy who made a few $100,000 in high school with his own business, and he wanted to hit the road and kind of live a van life. And I wanted to make a movie kind of about like this idea of the new generation of kids wanting to explore the bigger world and live a more comfortable and secluded life. And it's like a life about the Midwest. So I hit up my friend who was going to be the main character in this documentary, and we did a pre-interview over Zoom, and I quickly realized this idea wouldn't work for a lot of logistical reasons. After that, I got another idea. So this is the idea that I eventually ended up using for my documentary. Basically, one of my best friends, he has a little non-neurotypical brother, and basically their family is starting a ranch for special needs children. And I thought this was the most heartwarming story ever, and I wanted to do something that tells their story. So after I got this idea, I hit up my friend and talked to his parents, and they were more than willing to do it. And also it's a great way to kind of promote their little ranch for the future once they open it to more people. So essentially I went to the ranch and talked with everyone. I spoke to the father of my best friend and his mother, and we kind of I just did another pre-interview. Basically, I wanted to get a good idea of what this documentary is really going to be about, some of the key points I want to do in the actual interview, some of the main B-roll, what I need to get. And I think that's very important when you're starting off making your first documentary, because that's like very key for the pre-production process. Because with documentary, you don't really plan too precisely exactly what you're gonna get. You kind of just like learn as you make it, right? So this pre-interview kind of helped guide you into this process. During the pre-interview, after figuring out some of the main questions I'm gonna ask for this movie and narrowing down the theme of this documentary, I also walked around the ranch trying to figure out some of the angles, some of the cool things I want to get with this, and trying to plan the shooting process so it can go a lot more efficiently. Day 1 hit, and this was the first day of the interview, and I wanted to interview the family, the dad, the mom, my friend, and also one of their family friends who kind of watched his little brother grow up. This day I was like super nervous because I've never done an interview before, so I was low-key on my phone watching how to film an interview, like with the lighting setups and stuff. But I figured out, so I went there, I set everything up, got the camera position, got the lights position, got the mic position, and I sat down with them one by one and I asked them all the questions I had in mind. And I think another advice I have for this is don't kind of stick just to your questions. Make sure you're listening to exactly what they're saying so you can craft your questions around what they're saying so you're a lot more engaged. And sometimes that could bring a lot more interesting points that you never even thought of and making it a lot more emotional. Obviously, this is a very personal story, so I wanted to ask some questions that would lead to some emotional beats. I think a lot of the interview definitely worked out. The answers I got were very great answers and very helpful to be able to craft the documentary around these answers. All right, so day 2 hit. I went back to the ranch, and this is the day when I was getting B-rolls. I had a little list of stuff I wanted to film based on the interviews. And essentially I first filmed the brother's room, his love of animals, getting the close-ups of his toys. And then I moved outside. I filmed the whole family, basically taking care of the animals, feeding the different types of animals, cleaning their cages. I also got some B-roll of the family kind of building a little enclosure that they were working on. Just more things to tie the story together. I also got some like really cool wide shots of them just walking in the vastness of the ranch with the mountain as the backdrop. And honestly, it looked really good, except I couldn't really get the sunset since it was so cloudy, but I think it added some mood and emotion to it that definitely worked out later on when I was editing the documentary. I waited a few weeks and then I came back on another day when they were free and it was sunny and I was getting more B-roll, and this was honestly one of the funnest days of filming just because it was just so beautiful. Like the golden glow of the sunlight, the ranch, just the vastness of the whole place was just so like Terrence Malick like, you know what I mean? So basically I went into the ranch and got more B-roll of the family, and this time I got the little brother to be in the B-roll, followed him around a little bit. I definitely talked to the little brother somewhat to get him more comfortable with me and my presence with the camera, and I followed him around the ranch and filmed him. I think the little moments of the ranch are the ones that like hit the hardest, like him chasing the chickens around, him looking at the goats. It's just like so beautiful. It was just very like freestyle, I didn't really have anything particular in mind. I just wanted to film the cooler things, and I think I did get some really good ones. And then I also got some establishing shots of the ranch just without the people to kind of start the story, maybe use it as transitions. And then I also filmed inside more with like the family and them eating dinner, and just like more to build a more personal story around this little boy and his family and how they support him. But honestly, it was really nice, and I was able to kind of direct them a little bit for the B-roll. Maybe like I was like, hey, pull him closer, walk as a row together, just kind of create more of a dreamy like feeling and fit the tone of the film. I think that worked a lot better. I was so proud of the cinematography on this film. I think it's probably my best work. And then after filming this, I was gonna do another interview with their family doctor who kind of takes care of the little brother, just to get some more medical side of the story. And essentially this story was gonna be about like how animal therapy helps with non-neurotypical kids. But then the more I thought of it, I was like, maybe I don't really need to do that, because I think this story is, instead of a scientific analysis of the horse treatment, I think it's more of a very personal story of a family doing what they can to take care of their little brother and trying to build a community for other kids similar to the little brothers. So then I decided to scratch that interview and kind of keep it more concise and more personal. And after this, I got some like little baby pictures as B-roll for more inserts into the film. I think it added more dynamic and more depth into the film. It's not just what's present, it's also what's before, and then there's elements of what's gonna happen in the future. So it built like a more realistic image of what the whole story is about. So after I got everything, I started editing it, and this was honestly really hard because I had like hours and hours of like just interview footage and like other footages, and I had no idea where to begin, right? So I kind of just like listened through all of the interview tapes, and I kind of like crafted a little storyline, little linear story based on what they said, and cut out the sections and then added the themes and stuff. So advice I have for this is just to pay very close attention and see what audio bites fit your story and how you can structure it based on that. And also you gotta kind of keep in mind of the structure of the documentary when you're asking the questions, so you know what it's gonna fit and where. I asked the questions about how did it feel when you first found out about the little brother and how he has to deal with special needs issues, right? And I also asked like, what's the future gonna be like for the ranch, and this is how I'm gonna end the documentary. I kind of pieced everything together like a linear path. I began with the very beginning when they found out, then the idea of the ranch, then the process, the challenges of the ranch, and just more things like later on. And I think this way was very helpful in crafting a short documentary. You know, short documentaries is not just a showcase of things. You gotta show like the issues they have to go through. You know, you have to show what's hard. That's how you keep the viewers engaged. You know, if you just do like a little tour of the ranch and like do the history of the ranch, that's boring. Like no one's gonna want to see that. But if you show like, you know, the very emotional side of things, I think that keeps the viewers a lot more engaged. And you know, something I wish I could have done better with this is having a goal for the main people. Like the documentary is going to be about them starting a goat enclosure or something like that, like more goal oriented, so then people were following on their journey. And maybe I could do that for my next documentary. But you know, overall I think I learned a lot about this documentary, and I think this documentary turned out better than I thought. I think it's one of the better works I've done in the past year. So, you know, I don't think I'm gonna make a documentary anytime soon. It was a very fun experience when I made this documentary. And if you haven't seen the documentary, check it out right here. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.